Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Casino Innovators Show. My name is Craig Shacklett, CEO of URComped, and I am here with longtime friend, startup extraordinaire in the casino space, Juan Romero, CEO of Volante Software. Juan, how are you, sir?
Doing fine, man. It's good to talk to you again. And you know, for the first time in history, I think we had a name for a discussion. So I'm happy to be, sitting in on your new series, and we don't have to go back and forth about what we call our conversations. It's set in stone this time.
I know. I got it written down, which is helpful because, the last time we had about 50 different iterations of startup conversations with founders, which is a great show. Everybody should go back and watch it. But you've been innovating for a long time. SlotTrak and all the modules with SlotTrak are, obviously game changing. You guys have been on fire working with some of the top casinos in the US and Canada. But I know right now you guys are really innovating in the AI space, especially with your new product, Alex. So maybe you can give us just kind of a quick overview of what SlotTrak's core business is, and then tell us about Alex and how that lays on top of what you're already doing.
Sure. So, one of the things that you mentioned is like SlotTrak and all of the modules contained within, right? And so SlotTrak is just an operation system that's really geared towards your slot departments, right? And kind of taking all of those day-to-day, very important and very specific processes and kind of interweaving them into one, centralized system. So whether it's game configurations and electronic slot files, to parts inventory or mill log entries or progressive entries, machine contracts, electronic checklists, and kind of taking all of that day-to-day data and bringing it into one uniform platform that can be, not only reported on, but also you can manage your operation through it. And so we've been doing that for about 10 years now. I think we just had our 10-year anniversary about a month ago or something like that. And yeah, we've been working with some extremely innovative and large properties out in the space, and they're continually pushing us to build new products and to enhance our functions. So, the real derivative from all of these modules and all of this data is like we're sitting on this repository of information that through analytics we can report on, right? And it's great. I mean, we have these huge Power BI dashboards that are immensely powerful on the analytical side, and we're taking a look at data that's really never been examined to the degree which we're capable of examining it now. Kind of the big problem with that is, do you want to stare at a dashboard that has 70 different tabs, right? I mean, at some point it becomes, inefficient and almost impossible because there's so many different scenarios and way to slice things. And so that inevitably led us down the path of like machine learning, right? And so how can we take those analytics and all of this underlying data and pour it into a system that's essentially going to be able to provide recommendations and see things that, for all intents and purposes, the naked eye couldn't see, without throwing 20 people at it to analyze it and potentially still missing stuff. So we have this huge swath of data, and really what led us to that is how can we process this and provide insights that have never been seen before in the most efficient way possible.
Well, and machine learning, AI, it's obviously a buzzword. Everyone's throwing that around. But I think what makes Alex unique is the data set that it's working on. And like you said, you guys are deeply ingrained in some of the top casinos in the country and in the world, really, with their slot operations. And so you're seeing activity on the machines, and also how often machines are down, the cost of different parts and things like that. So how does that unique data set make your AI and your machine learning more powerful than the 50 other companies that may be saying that they're doing AI and machine learning?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing there is, it all comes down to collecting data that's never been collected before, right? So as we look at things, we look at our slot accounting systems, we look at our player tracking systems, and there's always this kind of standard subset of information that we report on, right? Whether it's, specific configuration items like the themes and the denoms and the holds and that kind of stuff. The thing that has really set us apart is, we're collecting attributes of those games that haven't traditionally been collected. So we're looking at minimum bets, maximum bets, theoretical holds, the real like deeper level configuration aspects of a game. And so from that aspect, we're combine revenue information with that and player information with that. We're able to go like, not only do your players respond to this theme and this denom, but this specific tier of players is responding to this specific attribute of games, whether it's par settings, whether it's minimum bets, maximum bets, all that other kind of stuff. So we're doing that already, right, on the analytical side. And then we take the jump in. What you're talking about is like, how much are these games costing us to operate? Like everyone says, I paid X amount for a cabinet, 15, 20,000, whatever the number is, but what's the true cost of ownership, right? How often does that game go down? What's the hard cost associated with keeping that game up in terms of parts and repairs and the mill log entries are going to tell us when it went down, when it came up. All the parts that have gone into it are going to show us through the parts inventory side of things. On the checklist side, we can do things like work orders and really gauge the human capital that's gone into it. So I think traditionally we've looked at things at a very high surface level, and the data that we're collecting is allowing us to dig so much deeper. Right. And again, the thing is, now we have all this data, we have all these charts, and we can certainly draw conclusions from that information. But isn't it so much better if I can just spit out through a machine learning model and say, this is the total cost of critical components that you can expect to fail in the next X amount of months, based on how much the games are being played, what section on the floor they're in, how often you do preventative maintenance on them, and all these other variables, right? And so we're taking this, like, hitting it from a multifaceted portion where not only can we look at the expense side and how much things are costing, but my biggest thing to the operators that we're talking to right now is saying this is like, let's say that your machine go live process takes 7 days and involves 12 departments and X amount of people, right? Well, using something like SlotTrak, which is our newest module, we can quantify every step in that process, identify bottlenecks, try and condense that process, and maybe go from 14 days to 10. Well, you tell me, as a slot director, would you rather have your games on the floor in 10 days or 14? Because we know the win per unit per day, we know what the average holds are. I can tell you exactly how much revenue you're going to be able to potentially make by getting those games up 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days faster than you were prior. And so it's not only taking all this data that's never been looked at before, but I think really changing the lens on traditionally what's important, and not just looking at things from a cost center, but from an efficiency in terms of games staying operational on the floor as long as possible.
That reminds me of Southwest Airlines. Famously, their business model, they were able to sell tickets a lot cheaper and still be profitable because they were able to turn their planes around so much faster. Like back in the day, it was just get on the plane, get on the plane, go. And they'd get maybe 1 or 2 extra flights per day, which allowed them to lower the ticket prices. And I think that goes into what you're saying about maximizing value with these slot floor directors and leaders by getting the games out quicker. Now, so you've got access to this unique data set, which again, I think when it comes to machine learning, AI, let's just assume the engine on all these companies is just as powerful. But it's really about the input and then the output. And you talked earlier about, like, there's just so many different dashboards and so many ways to look at data. It can be like a Cheesecake Factory menu where you're just overwhelmed and you don't know what to pick. Right. So what is your vision with Alex of how you can give just actionable insights to these leaders with the data you've collected?
Yeah, so it's funny. We're having all this methodology talk and capacity talk, and you mentioned the product a couple of times. We haven't even gone to market with it yet, so the announcement will be coming in the next 2 weeks or so. But Alex is the name of the product, and yeah, it's going to be our I hate to use the word AI, everyone's using that word, our machine learning tie-in and our modeling tie-in to the analytics side of SlotTrak. And what we're really focused on primarily at the beginning is 2 specific kind of windows to look at. The first one being all on the inventory side. So it's as close as we can get to a just-in-time inventory system by analyzing trends, not only in the parts that are being purchased and being used, but also on the propensity of those games to break, right? And so providing forecast information at a very, very granular level to say, this is how many parts based on your footprint on the floor of these types of cabinets, your usage and the propensity for those items to break that you should have in store to keep games up, in 8 hours, 4 hours, 24 hours, whatever the case may be. And so really honing in on that part side and the inventory levels, and then the total cost of ownership, right, for those cabinets. So again, looking at this and saying, like, what's the net effect when this game goes down? Our machines, for lack of having parts, are players moving over to 1 or 2 games that are similar to this? Or are they getting frustrated? Are they leaving? Does their play go down? So doing a lot of analysis and feedback on the part inventory side, the availability of parts, and then basically the QA of those games and those cabinets, right? Because if as a slot director, I can tell you, like, okay, this cabinet XYZ is going to cost you X amount to purchase, it's going to cost you X amount in upkeep, and you can expect these items to fail in the next X amount of months, that should factor into your decision as to what you're buying. Right? I mean, is the win per unit per day and is the customer reaction going to justify that expense? Because it's going so much further beyond the hard cost. So we're focusing on that side. And then the second side is, again, we're looking at the characteristics of these games from a configuration level much lower than the surface. What's the theme? What's the denom? So again, saying if we have X amount of machines in this configuration, whether it's different tiers for min bets, max bets, pars, the theme, the section that it's located, and evaluating all that and saying these player groups are responding to games of this specific makeup, right? And these are the ones that are contributing at the highest level to your coin in or to your fiscal goals, right? But there's going to be a level of saturation there, right? So providing recommendations on not only the product mix within those attributes, but also the net effect to the floor, right? Because at some point it's going to become diluted. Like, just because I say your top tier players are responding to these attributes, that doesn't mean you should put 100 games of that, specific makeup out on your floor. You're just going to take either, cannibalized data from somewhere else, or, you're going to basically throw everything out of whack. So what we're really looking for on that side is, let's identify those key factors that are moving your most profitable lines of business. Let's get them to optimal levels. And then going forward, because we have all that slot file information, what can you expect out of a move or a conversion in one direction or another over the course of the next 30, 60, 90, and 120 days, so you can respond to that accordingly. So kind of looking at this as kind of a work in progress, and how can we, as quickly as possible, identify things that can be moved and then tell you whether or not they're trending in the direction that they should be.
Well, I'm sure a lot of slot leadership, casino leadership people are getting real excited hearing about the potential there to just maximize their slot floor and the revenue and reduce costs just with the data they already have by plugging in SlotTrak and leveraging Alex. So if somebody wants to learn more about it, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or the team at SlotTrak?
So the best way to get a hold of us is to go to our website at volantesoftware.com. You can always reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're there all the time. And those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of us. And then, in terms of the stuff that we're doing with LX, like I said, in the next 2 weeks or so, probably mid-December, all of that will be out to the public. Probably we'll also be announcing the first customer, because we already have about 4 or 5 people that are ready to dip their toes into that pond. We're just kind of tying up some specifics, but yeah, we're really excited about it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
Well, Juan, thank you so much. You are truly a casino innovator, and I look forward to checking back in with you with follow-up and hear about all the success stories with Alex and all your new modules.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having us on again. It's always great to talk to you. And then, like we discussed before, I have in a couple hours, 2 hours actually, we're meeting with one of the customers and the company we're partnering with on Alex. And so it would be great to have them on in a couple months and kind of see what we can tie back in terms of what we were setting out to do and what we're able to put forth as far as a case study is concerned. So best of luck to you on this new venture and your new series, and I'm sure it's going to be great. And I look forward to hearing the stories from other innovators in the space, man.
All right. Well, thank you, Juan. We will talk again soon.
Thanks, Craig. Take care.